All right, let's go. I'm gonna start with drums. So drums. Here we go. Here we go. All right, let me load my kick sample. Like as I say, guys, I had already started, so kind of get a jump start. So I'm gonna load my kick sample preset. This is what my kick sample looks like. My kick sample for this, now this preset is just for this particular song, so don't think it's like a generic preset that I have. It's literally just for this particular song, or for the session rather. So these presets are created for the entire project. So I'd already began working on it, and so now I have presets. So when it's time to mix the other songs, the presets are already there. Yeah, one time for workflow. So on this kick sample, I have a pull tech and and just a regular channel EQ. Now, I need to quickly explain. I'll start with the channel EQ. I'll need to quickly explain the purpose of this form that you see here. So the thing that I want you guys to pay attention to, okay, this is kind of backwards. This is supposed to be up here. The thing that I want you guys to kind of pay attention to is, the formation. Let me see. Okay, the thing that I want you to pay attention to is the formation of this line, the analyzer. All right, so what's happening in the analyzer? The analyzer is kind of telling me the condition of this signal. So as the signal is coming in, this is the condition, its strength, its anomalies, just its form. The problem with it is it's not linear enough for me. The more linear it is, the more natural the sound of the drum is, and the easier it is to sculpt it how I envision sculpting it. So essentially, I'm looking for a particular linear slope in this case. I can easily just try to go for a horizontal slope that just goes straight across the board, but I'm not necessarily looking for that type of sound. I'm not necessarily looking to form that type of sound. Now I'm taking this more so not from my studio engineering experience, but from my live engineering experience. Just what I do on a live platform. Usually when I'm tuning a facility or tuning a system to a room, I'm looking for a particular slope. There's a particular slope that I'm trying to match when I'm tuning a system to the room. It's kind of the same thing. The reason why I do it in a room, doing that, is because every room or every facility has anomalies, overtones, rings that just overring in the room, and you want to pull it out of the system. You want to pull it out of the system so the system doesn't trigger those frequencies in that room that just cause overring, overtones, and different things like that. I take that same principle because essentially what you're trying to do is flatten the response in a room. I'm trying to flatten the response in my mix. So what I do is I look for a particular linear slope, and I form that instrument. So I'm gonna start turning these on, and you'll start seeing what I've done. So I did a boost here, and my slope, I want it to be more of a straight line coming across like that. I want it to have just you could say like a 30-degree drop or whatever, maybe 30 to 45 degree drop slope. So in my response, what you see here. So as I turn on these bands, you'll kind of see what I've done to kind of create the line that I'm looking for. So here we are, along the lines of what I'm looking for. I would essentially maybe around here do like maybe a slight wide drop here or something like that, and just to make it as close to a line as possible, maybe boost this up just a little bit more, and then I'll probably drop right here just a little more. Yeah, so I'll probably do that, right? So this is what it's looking at like for me. I might want to do just a little bit more of a drop right here to, yeah. So essentially that's kind of what I'm looking. Yeah, this may be a little too, yeah. So now I have a flat, I'm getting like a more of a flat response from that sample, from that instrument. And then I'm gonna use the Pultec to scope the sound. So for example, I'll bring you back to when I'm sitting in a facility, to mix a facility, I flatten the room. So I've gotten the flattened response that I'm looking for from the PA. And now I want to mix my bass drum. So this is how I want my bass drum to sound in that room. Essentially, that's what I'm doing. So what I've done is a Pultec EQ. I'm using a Pultec EQ from UAD. That's a go-to. That should be a go-to for every engineer. Sometimes you don't even have to boost or cut anything or attenuate anything. Just putting the EQ in on the channel does something to it. It's as if, running the channel, running the signal through that circuit, through that actual piece of hardware, and it does whatever it does to kind of shape, saturate the signal or whatnot, and give you a shape to that particular instrument. So that's what I'm looking at for mine's here. Oh, that's what I did. And then what I have in combination to that is I kind of want to add more of an attack to it. So I kept the original bass drum from that night, but I don't want to have the full range of the bass drum. I just want the attack end of it. So in my preset, you're gonna see here, Betty's preset. It's gonna be the kick out. Right? So essentially, what it is, it's just a high pass up to 900 hertz, and I'm just letting out the high end of it, and then just kind of letting it, do its thing, letting it kind of float in there. So just want a little bit more of that attack underneath it, yeah. So it's gonna give it a little bit more bite for me, which works very well for me. So let that bite. Let it bite. So what did I have originally? So yeah. All right, so now I'm gonna go over to the snare sample. Remember I was saying about the snare sample it's essentially just a trigger of my accents. That's all it is. All right, so let me load my preset. Oh, nothing there. Yeah, really. No, there was something there. Oh, where we at? Sample, right? And then in the sample channel, there should have been a Betty snare sample. Okay, there we go. Now, here, same thing that I did to kick. to the kick. Essentially, I flatten it. I'm looking for that 30 to 45 degree slope. 30 to 45 degree slope with a high pass. Now, you always do a high pass on anything outside of kick and bass, because you just want to remove the mud from your mix. So I do that across the board with everything from guitars, keyboards, the rest of the drum kit, background vocals. Nothing has any response below essentially 120 hertz, unless it's bass or drums. So I do that to protect essentially the low end and the clarity of my mix, and the transparency of my mix and the mix space. So high pass to 132 in this case, and a linear slope. There we go. And then I'm using the pull tech once again to scope my sound. Now in this case, I'm scoping my sound now with the pull tech. I'm doing a boost and attenuation at 100 hertz. Now, why I'm doing this is because if you understand what a pull tech does, a pull tech, once boosting and attenuating at the same time, it creates a particular curve around, I think it's just below the 100 hertz. So it kind of does a dip at the 100 hertz, and then it does a boost below it, kind of a shelf type response below it, which it does create more of a warm response. Now, I'm a big snare type of guy, so I like that thick, fat, juicy snare. And then on the high end, I need that snap to kind of come through. And once we open up the mix, you're going to understand why, though, because the snare is going to ended up getting lost if I didn't. And I'll give you an example towards the end of the mix of how it got lost. So I do a snap. So to get the high end of that trigger, I did a boost. Yeah. +9, almost +9 at 8 kilohertz, and these are very sharp curves. What I hope I can explain. Well, okay, yeah. So these are curves, just so you know, curves. For everyone that doesn't understand what a curve is, this is a curve. So in this case, because of this, it's a sharp and then a broad curve. So sharp or broad, so big, like sharp hill, wide hill, if that makes sense. Cool. And I had to do a few dB drop on the output just to compensate for the boosts here. So that's where it puts me. And I'm kind of liking the balance of the kick and the kick and the snare together. One thing I do is I will mix in mono. So I will go in and out of mono and stereo. I'll go in and out of mono and stereo to gauge the balancing on my between instruments. So that's why I do it in mono, so you guys are here. Once I disengage my mono, the width or the spread of the mix will just pop out at you, and you'll be like, whoa, cool. All right, so let me load snare top. Here we go. Snare top. So was there anything on my snare top preset for her session? No, it was empty. Yeah, so I didn't even need to save that preset. Okay, there's somebody at my door. Who you will? Oh, my brother's going to. Oh, okay, cool. response. All right. Cool. Sorry, guys. Random distractions. So I didn't have anything on the snare top, but on my snare bottom, I know there was something. Let's see what it is. Snare bottom. Snare bottom. Yeah. Flattening the response once again. So hold on. Let me bring the now the snare bottom is what gives me my my ghosts. Well, the snare top gives me my ghost notes, but the snares on the bottom emphasizes the ghost notes for me. So everything that is not triggered is coming from those two mics. So, and what what's that look like? What's that look like? What's that look like? What's that look like? Yeah. So remember, I'm still in mono, guys. Remember, I'm still looking for that flat response, that linear slope. So this is why I did that. Without this is what that response looks like. There's a dip here, curves, dips, flat, kinda, and then a kind of curve here, then it drops. So I'm looking for that linear response. Well, and then I go to my hi-hat. So my hi-hat, high pass. Essentially, that's it. And flattening response again. I'm looking for just more so the tone of the hi-hat and then the stick attack on the hi-hat. So in this case, most of the song was ride. And then, you know, there were a few moments where he hit splash the hi-hat. Yeah, but I'm looking for that response, yeah. So I can just fit right in where it needs to fit right in. Alright, cool. Okay, now this is where I start to pan. I pan the kit as if I'm sitting on the kit, okay? So generally the hi-hat is gonna be like right here. If I'm listening to it, if I'm sitting on it, it's gonna be like right here on this scope of my head. So this is where I perceive it to be. So that's where I'm gonna pan it to, okay? Okay, cool. Then I go into my toms. I'm off key, but whatever. Boom. Response. This just so happened to be the response of that tom. It was ugly, and this is what it turned out to be. So, this is what it looked like. Yep. And then I needed to do this boost here because that's where the actual tone of that tom is, and I need to bring it out. So once I remove it, you know, it kind of takes away from that actual tone, the actual body of the tom. So I boosted in there just to emphasize it, along with flattening the rest of the drum. And then I form the tone of the drum. I flattened it and then formed it. And then I did a boost at 10K because I need to capture the attack of the stick hitting the skin of the drum head. And then And then I did a boosted of 2 dBs at 500 hertz, just a slight boost, just to add a little bit more body in there. I'm sculpting the drum. I'm sculpting it to what I want it to sound like. Okay. And then once again, I pan it as if, well, I usually have a formula of panning when it comes to toms. So it's if it's 3 toms, it's -40, then 10, then 50, right? And remember, there's a triggered floor tom on there, kind of blaring. No, I take it back. Was it 50? 45. Okay, 45. So it's at 45. 45. So, and then I do a hard pan of overhead. Cool. So let me load the preset for Tom 2. I'll show you guys what that looks like. Tom 2, once again. Response. This is what it took to get that linear response. This is what it took to get that linear response for me. And it's that linear response. I actually can do, I don't remember, I don't have any bands anymore. Oh, I do have one right here. Actually, this is so I can't really use that band. But it was a flat enough. Oh, why am I yawning? It was a flat enough response for me. A flat enough slope, and then I formed it with an API. Once again, that attack, the area of attack, in this case, it was at 7K to get the attack, that pew, from the top of the tom. I might have to show you guys an example of what that looks like. So all right, cool. So generally what I'll do, all right, so that attack right at the top end of it, I need that where you can actually hear the stick hitting the tom. So I need that, because once everything comes into the mix, that's gonna get lost, and it's just gonna sound like ooh, and then ooh, and then ooh, rather than do. I need that in your face kind of slap. And also, once I get into effects, you'll hear it even more. You'll hear even more where I'm coming from. So, cool biz. Where we at? Okay, cool biz. All right, cool biz. All right. So now I always kind of operate these two together. So with the sample kind of over dominating. I'm gonna load the floor tom preset first. Floor tom trigger, floor tom sample. And I want more of that tone coming out. So once again, linear response, slope. That's what I'm looking for. Linear. Look at that. And then I form it with a EQ. In this case, I formed it with a Pultec because I needed a little bit of a boost in the low, the sub frequency range of the EQ. Sub frequency meaning the low end that trigger the subs, you know, like the ones in the back seat of your car or the ones that sit under the stage. or in front of the stage in an arena or whatever, that's the sub frequency section of it. So I'm actually down at 30 hertz doing a boost to get that bottom in, All right, cool. And then what did I do for the actual mic itself, the actual tom mic? Yeah, flattened it as flat as a response as I could get. Yep, flattening the response so you can kind of see it. A slope. I could probably afford to do a dip here, but there's probably a reason why I didn't. I don't know. Now remember, the other thing I had said to you guys was that there was crazy bleed in there from that ride cymbal. So yeah, that's the life I'm living right now. Cool. All right. So, and then the last thing is bringing in those overheads, all right? So I'm gonna bring in these overheads, and then I'm gonna kind of show you where mono does its thing, right? Mono is showing you. What is mono showing you? Well, first and foremost, same thing. I flatten the response as much as possible. This slope is not as exaggerated because most of the things that are coming through this mic are cymbals, and so I kind of don't want to lose the texture of the cymbals and the brilliance of the cymbals, so I went for more of a flat response than anything. And then I boosted at 16K because I love the sheen and the brilliance of overheads. Cymbals, excuse me. So I'm looking for that sheen. This is what it sounds like without the sheen. Without the sheen. With the sheen. Yeah. So now, in terms of leveling it, Mono's gonna tell you if it's too loud or not. And you have to mix it in comparison to one another. How is it sitting? How does it sit? How does each part respond to one another in the mix? And then turn mono off. Yeah. So now, this is without effects. This is really more so just getting shaping the kit so it can sit good in the mix. Now, most of what I did was an unorthodox approach to mixing, but there's a reason why I do it. There's a sound that I want to create, and sometimes you have to push the envelope. Sometimes you have to break the rules to achieve that sound, and this is just how I achieve it. I'm still going for the organic sound. I'm still going for the organic feel of just the authenticity of the night. And this is what I do to keep it organic, but then to also, make it stand out. So you'll hear by the time it's time to print the end of the mix, you'll hear that. Whoa, man, this sounds amazing. Okay, cool. So, I think that's it for me for drums. Hopefully this gives you an understanding. If you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and email me directly, or you can DM me on my Instagram or email or whatnot, or you can even comment on it and then and I'll respond. I'll definitely respond and do my best as much as possible to kind of walk you or explain to you why I do what I do, if anything. Now, you'll hear an occasional glitch in the session. There's a few things that we had to do, and one of the drawbacks are those glitches, unfortunately. So You know, we go through this very meticulous editing process, and unfortunately there's some things that we have to sacrifice, but you don't hear them in the final mix. If everything falls right in. So that's it for this episode. Drums. Lynn Betty, Nothing Else Matters, everywhere, on all platforms, all stores. Go get it. Follow her. I am Lynn Betty. I am Lynn Betty on IG. I don't know what it is on Facebook. But she's an awesome worship leader. Awesome worshiper. Great soul. That's my twin. We're really close. So shout out, twin. I got your back. Anyway, thank you for coming through and just sit with me through this process. Next is going to be bass. So we're going to approach mixing bass in combination with drums and how they fall together. You know, how they fall into place and how they fit in. Now, don't pay attention to what's going on in the background because it sounds kind of crazy. I don't know what I'm hearing. It sounds like somebody's out of tune. So it's crazy. Anyway, so enjoy, guys.